All right, doing something new. I am so just stupidly nervous right now. This is different. In case you haven't noticed, we don't usually do things like this. I'm too nervous. I gotta gonna crack this open. Oh god, that's terrible. This stuff is fucking gross. I quit beer because very high calorie, and I'm trying to lose some weight. I mean, look at me, I'm not a small man. A little of this going on, some titty. So I've been trying to lose weight. I got married. I'm like, it'd be unfair if I died at 40, and my wife is just stuck with our fucking nightmare of a dog. Shout out Prince Robot the Fourth. Prince, really? So I've been drinking these fucking seltzer things, but the thing is, the seltzers don't have a lot of alcohol in them, like fucking 5% alcohol, which is bullshit. I like to get drunk. I got these seltzers, which are 8% alcohol, which is a significant increase over the standard hard seltzer thing, and it tastes like you put a whole bunch of vodka in a seltzer. It just tastes terrible. So, Rodney Ascher. He is a documentarian I really dig. All of his stuff I'm usually pretty on board for. You probably know him best as the director of Room 237.
And he would put things in the scenes that he knows will be, among other things, like confirmers when people start to try to figure out what the movie's about. And we know he took this kind of care. There's a photograph in one of the books that actually shows Kubrick carefully arranging objects on the shelves in that Dracula room.
Room 237 was the shining Jesus Christ. Is this what YouTube people do all the time? This is a fucking nightmare. I hate this. I hate this so much. I feel so naked. I feel very vulnerable. Thank God I have my Bud Light Platinum Seltzer non-spot. You know what? No, fuck this. Hold on. Get fucked, Bud Light. No free clout. Where were we? Rodney Ascher is known best for Room 237. It is a documentary about all the conspiracy theories, more or less, surrounding the film The Shining, starring Jack Nicholson, which I'm sure everyone and their mother is very familiar with. Now, I am not a Shining fan. I know I am in the minority. I know that I'm wrong, even. And yes, opinions can be wrong. We've seen it happen all the time. Even though I'm not a big Shining fan, Rodney Ascher is such an amazing filmmaker that I didn't really care. I mean, I've never seen a documentary shot the way that he shoots them. He does use a lot of archival footage, but likes to shoot new footage. And he's got a great style. I would love to see him just do a narrative feature, because I just think he's got such a great eye. His next feature was The Nightmare, which was a pretty terrifying look at sleep paralysis. And then we see these horror chops that Ascher has really coming into play. And The Nightmare has similar things where he's shooting his own footage to kind of represent the stories being told by his subjects. And it results in some really cool and really terrifying shit. And it's these niche subjects that Ascher picks that really resonates with me. You know, there's a short documentary he did for Shudder. Primal Screen is about a bunch of kids who got traumatized by a trailer for the movie Magic from I think 1978. Starring Anthony Hopkins. It's Anthony Hopkins' psychological thriller where he is being controlled by a dummy. I watched the movie. The movie's not very good. That's not the point. It had this creepy ass TV spot that was airing all the time in the 70s, and it created a serious fear of ventriloquism dummies in the people who watched it as children. And hearing their accounts, it's kind of chilling. And you can kind of, once you see the trailer, I'll roll the clip here.
Abracadabra, I sit on his knee. Presto, changeo, and now he is me. Hocus pocus, we take her to bed. Magic is free. We're dead.
So yeah, that shit's scary, right? That's gonna terrify any kid. He has this fascination with where our fears come from and how they manifest. And I think an even better example of that is the S from Hell, which is only an 8-minute long documentary he did about kids who got freaked out by the Screen Gems logo that used to play after episodes of Bewitched. It's fucking wild. He finds these really specific things, and I watched the S from Hell thinking it was a joke at first, and it was not. It was very much a real thing, and it's creepy. Actually, when you look at the Screen Gems logo here, I'll play the thing in question. you can kind of get like why people might get freaked out by it. I feel like being alone in a room with a TV and that plays, I don't know, maybe I'm a little scaredy cat kid. For me, it was the trailer, the commercial for The Others. I don't know if you remember that movie. Nicole Kidman, I think it was 2001. That movie had a scene where the little girl has an old lady face.
Where is my daughter? Are you mad? I am your daughter.
And that shit fucked me up. Every time that commercial was coming on, like, I would vacate the room. Even when he's covering subjects that I'm not specifically interested in, his filmmaking techniques are so fascinating and visually striking that it's enough to keep me invested. And that's always been the case up until now. I watched A Glitch in the Matrix, and roll the intro. So where to start with this? A Glitch in the Matrix, if you didn't guess by the title, it's about simulation theory, which is this idea that our whole reality is actually just a computer simulation. It's very far-fetched, and it's impossible to prove something like this. And yes, scientists have backed it up in more ways than one. It is something that has been looked into kind of more professionally, but it falls into like this area of conspiracy theory that like I can't take too seriously. Look, I think we should be super skeptical of information just in general. Skepticism is very, very healthy. However, I do think like when you get too far into it, you start reaching like QAnon shit. No one wants to be that guy. I don't know if you guys have seen the show How To with, I can't think of the dude's name, but he's great. Put it in text right here. I'll put it in text right here. He did a great episode on how to like get better memory, and what he winds up doing is going to a convention for people who very strongly believe in the Mandela effect. And boy, like, what a dumb group of people. Like, so they're all very convinced that the Mandela effect, which, I mean, if you don't know what the Mandela effect is, it's like everyone thinks that Nelson Mandela died in prison in like the 90s or some shit, but he didn't. And people with shitty memories just think, oh, well, this is proof of alternate realities and realities colliding and mixing and us shifting timelines and all this weird sci-fi bullshit, when the most likely, most plausible conclusion there that you could possibly draw is that you have a shitty memory. No shame in it, but yeah, I mean, sometimes memory is very fallible. The Mandela effect comes up in this movie when they're describing these odd phenomenons, like simulation theory, and like the things that they're pointing out as like evidence of simulation are just nonsense. Like one dude is literally like, I would drive in a car, and there would be no other cars on the road, and you know, like, how weird is that? Like, it's not that fucking weird. What are you talking about? Like, if we are in a simulation, great. We have that information. Now what the fuck do we do? What do we do with that? Nothing. We just have to keep on living. It's not like we're going to escape the simulation. If the simulation ends, then we're just gone. So who is that benefiting? And also the amount it actually just points to the movie The Matrix. Oh my God. Another movie that I do not enjoy, which is, again, it's on me. It's not a good opinion. It's not a right opinion. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of The Matrix. I think the Wachowskis are cool. I think the best thing they ever did was Speed Racer. Cut to a clip. The Matrix, you know, we see Neo like wake up and he's getting pulled out of a tank. So many people are like talking about how this was such an eye-opening thing to them, and it's what like introduced them to the concept of simulation theory, which, again, not in itself is like, it's not that it can be completely dismissed. Like I get it, we can't disprove it, but we can't disprove a lot of things. I mean, like, most religions can't be disproved. You don't go out believing every religion for that reason, you know. Unless you do, that'd be fucked up. Scientology exists, and I mean, like, that's based off of nothing. So yeah, all right. If people can believe in Scientology, then people can probably believe in anything. And like, all of these pieces of evidence that they're presenting you seem paper thin and under like the least bit of scrutiny kind of melt away. But what bums me out here is that Ascher fails to really bring any skepticism to the conversation. A little bit more so towards the end, he kind of gets into like the danger of believing too sincerely in simulation theory. So I have a lot of opinions on documentaries and how they should be made, how they should convey their points and everything, and then the responsibility that documentarians have to their audience. So Part of Your World was a documentary that my wife and I made about people who left ultra-Orthodox Jewish communities in Brooklyn, and how their exposure to pop culture affected their transition into the secular world. And the communities that they were living in, they were very like insular, and they missed out on a lot because of it. It's so easy when making a piece about that to demonize the religion. There is a healthy amount of criticism in there, but we also tried to show that, like, not everyone in that community is miserable or feels oppressed. We only had 15 minutes to do it, but we wanted to make sure that we weren't only giving one side to a story, which is why I'm a little disturbed that in this movie that's over an hour and a half long, I feel like we only get the one side. We only get the side of the people who are full-blown gung-ho into simulation theory, and they're given so much time to speak on it. It so often comes off as just rambling about these high concept things that there's no way to really to visualize in any effective way. I don't think they effectively communicated their points at all, but it's a lot of like sci-fi jargon it seems like they're using to explain it, and you become lost so quickly, and I just became very detached because it just seemed like they were really trying to sell me on this concept that is really out there. I'm not saying that there's anything like inherently wrong with believing this thing. That's not the case at all, but I think there is something inherently wrong with a documentary only seeming to posit that this hypothesis, this theory, is accurate. My wife is a scientist. I think she feels kind of the same way about this, that you have to, when it comes to science in general, you have to start from a place of doubt and trying to disprove yourself, and that's how you get results that are actually helpful. And Ascher doesn't do that. In fact, I don't know what is accomplished by this documentary. I don't really feel like I learned more about simulation theory at any point, because again, once they get into specifics, it is all so abstract that the technical jargon just seems to mush together and it doesn't mean anything. And I didn't learn anything about the other side. I didn't learn about like anything about people who are maybe trying to disprove simulation theory, because once you have a theory, you have to try to disprove it. I think that's a big part of this. Now, while I wasn't super into the subject matter here, I will say Ascher's filmmaking, remains very impressive, and especially in this scenario where it very much seems like this is something he put together during the pandemic. The interviews are Zoom meetings, it seems like, or at least most of the interviews are Zoom meetings, but they use like that kind of like VTuber thing that we see on Twitch all the time, where like these animated characters are put over the subject, so we don't really see their faces. We see these like, weird avatars. There's one like Egyptian looking dog-headed god type thing that had my dog freaking the fuck out the whole time, and that's cool. It does make it a little bit more interesting to look at than just a straightforward Zoom conversation. He didn't really go out and shoot his own stuff for this. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of footage of what looks like just Google Maps, Google satellite like renderings of like streets and stuff to kind of convey the simulated world these people think we're living in, which is interesting at first, but I think after 20 minutes, you get the idea, and he really relies on these two things to keep the movie visually interesting. I'm really bummed out by this. I like Ascher a lot. I've been following his work very closely. The movie he released before this, the El Duce tapes, I haven't watched yet just because I know nothing about the man that it is following. So I can't tell you what his stuff looks like recently, but I'm still excited to see whatever he puts out next. I think Ascher is an immense talent, and he's working with what he has. I just don't think this was his best effort, unfortunately. I think that this movie kind of fell short. Going into 2021, this was probably my most anticipated movie. I like Rodney Ascher shit that much. So for the first time I'm doing this kind of video for our YouTube channel, it sucks that I have to start off with something so negative. I don't generally enjoy just shitting on movies, despite what you may think if you listen to the podcast, which, by the way, we're on all podcast services, Random Movie Roulette. Look us up, because we do it live over on twitch.tv/ Arm Roulette. And you can go to patreon.com/Arm Roulette. Throw us a few shekels at the $5 a month tier. You get a bonus show, TV Boys. So go check that out if you have the chance. Thank you guys so much for watching this. If you made it this far, that's fucking amazing. Rodney Ascher, fucking, I hope we get it right the next time. I'm still down for whatever you make, man. But this ain't it. This ain't it, homie. We gotta find some new shit. So if you like this kind of thing, like, subscribe, do all that shit. We put out podcasts. We try to every other week. That's what we're moving to this year. Thank you guys for joining me. I hope to be back soon with another one of these. Bye.